Welcome to Health Oddity, the show that strips away the jargon and hype surrounding all things health and fitness to help you live a long, strong and energetic life. Lining up at the bar this week, here's Peter Ladd, Paul Bassett and James St. Pierre.
Hello and welcome to the Health Oddity podcast, episode 192. We're getting up towards 200. We'll have to think what we'll do for 200. We're going to have to get a very, 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 very special guest on for 200. We'll have to have a think about that. But we are here today. It is with Pete and myself. And we are going to kind of discuss and unpack and debrief from the fantastic weekend that we both had in Belfast last weekend with Paul Mcllroy on his kind of strength training masterclass, his 2-day workshop, which he spoke about a few weeks back on the podcast with us. We did a double episode with him talking about it, and we're going to kind of debrief and talk about that, what we've taken away from it. Because some things I know already. I mean, we came back from Belfast on the Sunday night. I've done 2 sessions this week already that I've kind of taken some of the bits that I learned from the weekend that I feel have made a bit of a difference. And I know Pete's done something the same. So yeah, we're gonna have a discussion around that. And just to let you know that next week we will be on with Mr. David Keown, Indiana Stones, will be with us next week from he's Belfast as well, isn't he, Pete? I think.
No, he's in the Copper Coast. He's like
is he
down south. Yeah.
Oh, right down south. Okay.
Yeah.
So he's not in Belfast. Yeah, he's the Copper Coast. Yeah, to down south. So from Ireland, he's on the island of Ireland anyway. He's on the island of Ireland. So yeah, we'll be talking to Mr. David Keown, Indiana Stones next week. But before we start delving into all this great stuff, how are you doing, Pete? You all right?
I'm all right. I'm very chilled and relaxed, actually. As we were just saying, I've had like Sean's a teacher, so she's off. It's Easter. Well, it's not. It was Easter ages ago, but she's still off school because I get 2 weeks off.
Easter school holidays, yeah.
Yeah, so we just have a nice, like, whenever that happens, kind of have a nice time. So that's good. Take the dog for a walk and what have you. So yeah, it's been nice. How about you, James?
I was just saying before we started recording, we were both in Belfast, obviously, the weekend, and we had a very snug sleeping arrangement, didn't we? We had some very
we did.
Twin beds.
Somebody said they saw that photograph and it does look like we're in the same bed. It's like, no, there was a gap.
We had Lauren Emery was in the gym just before I came home to come on the podcast, and she said those beds were really close together, you know, and they were, you know, the bed was the width of a pillow basically, so it was kind of like, you know, I'd imagine the bed was maybe, I don't know, in metric, sort of 60 centimeters wide. And, you know, and obviously like a normal bed's length. But then there was probably, I don't know, 50 to 60 centimeters between the 2 beds. You know, it was very compact.
Well, 2 things. Number one, I've got to say thank you to Lauren, actually, because she bought a Walk Bath t-shirt, which is great.
Oh, you said. She
doesn't even live in Bath. So that's fantastic. And then the second thing is the size of some of the guys who were at this thing, you know, because big, strong people would not have fit. Like, it's lucky it was me and you who got those beds because we're not exactly massive.
We opted for the twin. We opted for the twin option rather than the double option. But I mean, I think quite a few of them probably had like a double room to themselves or had a double bed. I'm not sure, but yeah, no. So we had that anyway. So anyway, we were kind of going off on a tangent a little bit, but we were both in Belfast at the weekend. And then we came back, and I was delayed coming back from Belfast on Sunday night. I was straight back to work Monday morning. And then this coming weekend, we've got we're going to spend the weekend together again because Pete is traveling to Chelmsford tomorrow, and we've got the Dan and Tim weekend, Dan, John, and Tim Anderson, which I think we've got about 26 people coming for, which is going to be amazing. So Pete is traveling to Essex tomorrow. And then we've got another weekend we're spending in person together. So we don't see each other for like, you know, we see each other maybe once a year. Maybe more now, because we do, obviously you come to the strongman stuff. We'll see each other in Cardiff. And then we're going to see each other, obviously, at the Britain's Disabled Strongest Man as well. So Yeah,
and hopefully at the Worlds, but we'll wangle that. Don't worry.
yeah. Yeah, so no, but yeah, it's good. Anyway, yeah, so I was just saying,
It's not that though. It's not that about the weekend. I'm looking forward to being on the radio on Monday.
Oh yes, yes. So yeah, so we've got the great weekend, and then Pete is going to stay an extra night, and we are both going into BBC Essex live into their studio on Monday afternoon to talk about the Health Oddity podcast on the BBC radio.
Yeah.
So
I've got to work on me Essex accent, haven't I?
It did take me a while to work out what you were thinking about that. Yeah, but no, so it's good. Yeah, it's exciting times. Yeah, really, really good. I mean, like you say, that weekend with Paul, and I think there was around 30 people there, wasn't there? All coaches from, Stephen Keeley came over from Australia. We had a couple of guys from the Czech Republic, and then obviously people from all over Ireland, and then obviously a contingent who flew over from England as well, which was great. And then this coming weekend with Dan and Tim, we've got people from Ireland, from Scotland, from Wales, from, I think, Germany or Holland. We've got people coming over. Yeah, we've got people coming from everywhere this weekend as well, which would be great,
Yeah. Just a quick one, just to do everyone's heads in. Those two guys were from the Czech Republic. The capital city that they're from is monosyllabic. It's only got one syllable, right? And there's 5 capital cities in the world that are monosyllabic. So anyway, answers on a postcard and all that sort of stuff.
What are they from? Prague. Is it Prague? Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So that's one of them. Thanks for giving it away.
Well, yeah, but
that's one of the harder ones.
I said that from the Czech. I said that from the Czech Republic. So yeah.
Well, yeah, but people might not know. But there's 4 others. But there you go. Anyway, that's everyone's head. Everyone's going to be sitting there now, not listening to the rest of the podcast, going.
Is split or spit, whatever it's called, is that monosyllabic or is that 2?
That's not a capital.
Oh, it's not a capital. Okay. Oh, okay. We won't play this game for the next hour.
Yeah.
Okay. So so last weekend, brilliant weekend. And like I say, loads of exciting stuff going on with the podcast, which we're loving. Do as well, before we get into this, we are now able to see new reviews coming through. So do post some reviews. We have actually had another one, but I'm saving it for next week because we had 2 last week that we read out. So we've had another one come through as well, another 5-star review, which we'll share at the start of next week's episode and give the person a shout out who gave us the review. We can see the reviews now on Apple Podcasts. So yeah, post some reviews and they'll get read out online, and we'll be giving away some merch. Anyway, Pete, what were your original thoughts about how did you, first of all, just overview, what did you think about the general weekend, the theme of the weekend in Belfast, how it went, the caliber of coaches there, the information, Paul Mcllroy's presentation or presenting. How was the weekend for you? Was it in broad brushstrokes, I suppose?
I loved it. Number one, Paul's presenting was brilliant because he's really funny. Like when he sends us programs, he sounds really serious. And I mean, I've seen him about before and stuff like that, and it's like, he's a funny bloke. And he does loads of accents and all of that sort of stuff. Like, who was the guy who was talking about John or something who's got like the really deep voice?
Yeah,
because I can't do the voice, but it sounds like he's talking through a traffic cone.
Yeah,
like that. So just things like that was really good. So he it's because we were sitting down. There wasn't much practical, was there? So we were sitting down for a long time, and you get tired. So he kept it engaging. And I mean, the audience is into it anyway. It's not like we're sitting there not wanting to listen, sort of thing. But even so, even after lunch, which was at 3:00. After lunch, it was kind of like, oh, I'm full now, sort of thing. So, but anyway, so he was really engaging, but obviously this isn't like necessarily new stuff. Technique wise, it kind of is and isn't, but it's different. Put it this way, it is different. You think like, what more can you actually know? But it's different from the way I've been taught before. And the way a lot of people have been taught before, and also the way a lot of people think about, say, the press. Think the way people think about the press, and the explanation of why he presses the way he does, and he encourages other people to, and it's worked for me for the last 3 years, and I've got the results to prove it, that actually, yeah, it does work. And it's not for it, and might not be for everybody. It might be for everybody. We saw that even trying to get certain positions and stuff like that, it's different for everybody because everyone's got different body shapes. There was a guy there who was a big, strong guy, but he was a big guy and he had shorter arms. So he couldn't get into the same position as I do in the rack, and you can't, and some other people couldn't, and all that. And it's
Are you thinking about the guy with the ginger beard?
Yeah, I can't remember his name. I'm friends with him on Facebook.
Yeah, I'm friends with him on Facebook now. He's a lovely guy.
Yeah, he was a great bloke. Yeah, so, but his rack position, if I try to do his rack, because he had massive lats.
Yeah,
and massive
short
triceps.
And short arms, didn't he?
Yeah,
remember
so
right?
he just rested his arm on his lat. I can't do that because my lat's over here.
Yeah.
So, like, just think little nuances like that. And I'm not going to say I didn't learn more, but I've been doing it for 3 years now, and Paul's been coaching me in it, so I knew quite a lot of it. But there was one little technique tweak he made on me, and that made everything easier. Yeah. So, and the programming side of it, I mean, I've been reverse engineering his program for the last few years, and you can kind of see that there's a certain theme to it. You can change the weight, you can change the number of sets, you can change the number of reps. That was basically it, but you can do that in infinite ways, right? And do it within cycles and stuff like that. So it was just interesting to see the way he presented it, because it's complex. However, I mean, I've got cubes and everything. I use these all the time. I see things in patterns, and I did maths at university. So for me, it was like, yeah. He was like, look, a star. And I'm like, yeah. And he's like, look, an X. Like, yeah. And everyone else is like, what? Where? And he's like,
I think when we first went in there, I mean, I have met Paul is that the first time you met him in person?
Yeah, he was at the level 1 I did 10 years ago in Harlow.
Right.
But I didn't meet him. He was just there. He wasn't doing it. He was there flogging the Amazing 12. But so he was there, but I didn't meet him. Dwayne was there as well, I remember.
Yeah, because I remember I've met them a few times before, and I think it was like a Strength Matters event years ago, and like an MPE, which is like a fitness business type event. And I've met him and seen him before. I don't know, he changed, but I was actually surprised when we first met him, how big he was now, like in terms of, he's a tall guy, and I always didn't remember him as being, but I'm 6 foot. He's probably a couple of inches taller than me, I think. And he was a big, solid guy now, isn't he? I know his weight changes throughout, depending upon what he's doing. And, back, maybe 10 years ago, he was a more slight frame for whatever he was doing. But he's a big, solid, strong guy now, isn't he? He really, so physically he was different than I expected. But also conversely, Tom Morrison was there, wasn't he, as well, who we've had on the podcast. And Tom was actually a lot smaller than I thought he was going to be, because Tom was like quite short, or shorter than I thought he was going to be, and also like quite slim as well. He was kind of, so it's interesting when you meet people in person who you're used to seeing online and on video and whatever, and then when you meet them, how they how things change. But no, I mean, that Saturday, literally, you say about he was being engaging, because he was talking from 9 a.m. till 7 p.m, so 10 hours, and we had roughly a 45-minute break at lunch, I think, from 3:15 till 4. So he was talking for near enough 10 hours, and we were sat there, and it was, and actually, funnily, like you say, after lunch I started to feel a bit drowsy. As soon as he got into the programming stuff, I kind of woke up. I was like really fully engaged in that again, and it really kind of helped. So, I mean, what was it might help people who listen, because I know a lot of people who listen obviously do kettlebell presses, but there was so much that I took away that were kind of more broad, I suppose, philosophies around training. And I took photos of pretty much every slide that he put up over the course of the weekend. And there were some really interesting things around just training philosophies, I suppose, and training, what's the word? When you say paradigms, and the way you look at training and the way you look at exercise and the way you look at strength and all that, which I found really interesting. But on a specific thing, your press, which we all know is strong and is coming on leaps and bounds. What is the thing that he tweaked with you? So we won't talk about the specifics of all the programming stuff, but what was it he tweaked that made a difference for you already that you feel this week?
Well, so
this might get a bit nerdy for some of you, but
yes, this might get really technical. However, if you've
done
any kettlebell certifications or anything like that, you'll get it. I was going to say something. Tom Morrison, by the way, what I really liked about him was he's basically exactly like he is. There was no difference.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? You know, when you meet people and like they're different online than they are in and all that, it was just him.
Yeah.
Paul's the same as well. So it's like, that's what I really like. There's no
falseness.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
They are who they are online. So that was really good. I forgot the question. Oh yeah. So what's interesting actually, the beginning of this is before I had Paul on the podcast, a few years ago, I'd seen him doing the pressing and I thought I'll give that a go. So I did it and posted it up. And he got in touch and he said, I see you trying to press like me. There's a few little things that could make it stronger, and that was kind of where that started. And then eventually I had a chat with him and all of that. And there was a guy there, Mark Teague, wasn't there? Who
did all the pressing to start?
Who did the stuff at the start, and he'd been doing the same. He'd seen what Paul was doing, and he was like, "I'll have a go at it." And then he ended up at the thing, and Paul added, what could he do? 18 presses with a 24.
Yeah,
and I'll say Paul didn't add. He tweaked his form in that within that 45 minutes, and then at the end he did 28.
28, I think 28. I think he added
on one side, and then the other side he was obviously fatigued and what have you. But
I think he still got maybe like 22, 23.
Yeah.
On the other side.
On his worst side. So he added 10 reps to his max just by a few technique tweaks. So but for me, you know how like you learn the strict technique and you've got vertical forearm from the press from there. Yeah. But when you do this technique, you kind of sit into the rack a bit more. So your arm ends up like slightly across your chest and it's at an angle, your forearm's at an angle. And now what I've been doing is leaning to the side and then pressing from there, which is harder. So, and it's kind of fine because it wasn't mine. The way my rack is, I'm not at a massive angle. Some people who've got longer arms have to bring them right the way across and they're kind of like at a 45-degree angle. Mine's less. I don't know which way I'm going with the angles, but mine's more vertical, but not quite. So it was basically just turn your body slightly. And then when you lean to press, and the moderate lean, by the way, we can go into that later on anyway, but lean to press and then your forearm's vertical.
Yeah. You
just go, and then it's a straight line, straight
line up. Yeah.
And for anyone who thinks it's going to hurt your back and all of that, if it does hurt your back, it's the technique's not there or the strength isn't there. You've got to build it up from a smaller weight and within your comfort zone and all that, the comfort zone expansion thing. But if your technique's there and the strength's there, your back, because, people are like, does that hurt your spine? You're using your spine to press all that. And it's like, no, because the weight is directly above your hip and you're pushing your hip out. So it engages all that muscle. Like it engages sort of like everything in your midsection as well. I can feel it more in my midsection than anywhere else. You do use your delts, your anterior delt. It is anterior. Yeah. I was thinking in Spanish because his anterior is back in Spanish. But anyway, I used to do Spanish a while ago. But like you rotate, and then as you press, your delt switches on. So that was the other thing of people thinking, well, you're using momentum to press the bell, and it's like, no, you've still got to press it from a dead start. It's still starting strength. So that one little tweak of that little rotation to get your arm vertical and go straight up, and I got 19 reps with a 32 just yesterday, actually. But that was like, I literally got out of bed about 20 minutes before, did a couple of presses with a 28, I did a couple of reps with a 32. And then I was like, right, I'll just have a go. And I did 19, which I've never done before. Yeah. The most I've ever done is 18. And the last one was a grind. This one was like, I got the 19th and then I was like, it was a bit, the last one was a bit wobbly. And also I was tired, like my heart rate was right up. It wasn't necessarily the strength that stopped me doing it. My legs were tired and my heart rate was right up. So I was just like, I'll just put it down now. And
well, 19 presses as well. We talked about this at the weekend, didn't we? Time under tension and time under load. But
yes.
even if you're relaxed in the rack, 19 presses, I would imagine, took you a good couple of minutes, didn't it?
Yeah, it was 1:45 or something like that.
Yeah, so nearly 2 minutes, yeah, of just having that 32, which is for you. Well, it's not a half, but it's not half. It's a good percentage of. It's probably 40%.
It's only one bell. It's one bell lower than my half body weight.
Yeah, so it's probably a 40% of your. Probably 45% of your body weight is just sitting, sort of bearing down on you. You know, kind of weighing down on you for nearly 2 minutes, and then you're being able to press it out, which is incredible. So yeah, I look forward to seeing you training actually at Unique Results on Monday in person.
Yeah. That's going to be great.
Are you going to wear your PJs?
I might bring them, I might do that. I might actually do that. Yeah. I'll tell you what, I'll have a sturdy pull-up bar as well. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah. Oh, you'll have a very sturdy pull-up bar to use. Yeah. Yeah. No,
your deadlifts were similar, weren't they? Because
yeah. So what I'll do is let's talk. I'll round out the press because I've just literally just while we're on the press, this afternoon or this lunchtime, just before coming back to record the podcast, I did my first kettlebell press session since the weekend. And like I said, I'm away behind you, but mine was 3 sets of 3 on each side with 30 kilos. And I did it last week, and it was a grind, I managed the reps, but this week I did my 3 sets, and because it was only 3 sets of 3, I recorded all 3 sets and I sent all 3 sets to Paul and just sort of said, this is set 1, this is set 2, this is set 3, because they're only quite short, and definitely it feels better this week. And there was one of the main tweak but my pressing, I still, because this is what I said to Paul, I said, I feel like I'm trying to hold on to the hard style technique of pressing or not deviate too far, because I know I'm going to need to be testing in that. But like he said, I need to kind of, if you get stronger doing what he would call the optimal press, then you can stiffen it up and tighten it up when you need to, but you'll have a lot more strength there in reserve. So
when I first started pressing like this, I couldn't press a 36 and I could press a 32 once, probably. Strict, like proper military strict.
Every 100%
strong first style press. I could press a 32 a couple of times easily with that now, and I could press a 36 no problem. So it's definitely gone up. Yeah,
so it's like one of the probably the most used phrase of the weekend was the rising tide raises all ships, wasn't it? So
that's his thing.
Which I love.
That's his new thing, isn't it?
Yeah. The rising tide raises. Yeah, and it's so if you get stronger in this optimal pressing way of pressing and programming as well, which the programming kind of comes hand in hand with it, then I'm just going to be a while, I think, getting this is the thing, because I've got the SFG2 in about 5 weeks, I think, and my press is not going to be there still. My half body weight press, it would need to be a 40, and like I say, I'm just pressing sort of 3 and 3 with a 30. I'm not, so I know I'll get 6 months after that. So I'm really hoping that just sticking on this path now, and not trying to peak for that.
If you've got 6 months, I had 2 people who were over 50, but got them through their SFG2 online, with this technique by just doing volume with a 24 basically. I think the other guy used a 28 mainly. But just doing volume with that, one guy had to press a 36 and the other one had to press a 32. And he was and I think he came to me after he did the level 2.
One of them Jed? Is one of them Jed or?
Yeah, one was Jed and the other one was a guy who was there at the level 2. So Jed.
It's not Tony, is it?
Yes, it was.
Yeah. Okay. Well, it's only one name. No one knows. We know. We know who. But we know who we're talking about. It's fine. Yeah.
But Jed nailed it because we'd been training for he came to me with that goal and he had 6 months or whatever, so it was fine. and Jed's just strong anyway.
Yeah.
And Tony was hit and miss with it, I think. And afterwards, he had 6 months to pass it, or whatever it was, or 3 months, or whatever. So we were using the 24 and just got him doing volume with that, and then he managed to press the 32.
He had to press the 32, wasn't it? I remember that was
yeah.
Yeah.
And he was sort of, I think he was hit and miss with it, but mostly miss. And then we were doing the program, and then he said, "Oh, by the way, I've got like 3 weeks until I have to press this thing." And it was like, right. So I said, right. And Paul was talking about this at the weekend. So I gave his central nervous some leeway and just said, right. I think we just cut the volume. I can't remember what we did exactly, but I think we just cut the volume and said, you're going to do 10 sets, but you're going to do 10 sets of 3 and just make it super easy. And then we'll build back up.
Yeah.
Because Paul was talking about that, wasn't he? The way these programs cycle. I mean, he gave us a 20-year program for God's sake, but the way the cycle, it's like, you build up, you get near your comfort zone, and then you just give your central nervous system some time off and go, right, I'm going to slash the volume by 50% or more, and then up the weight. But so the weight's heavier, but only slightly. But your central nervous system's like, and I've done this. When he does this, I'm on a new cycle starting Monday. So and every time that happens, I'm like, oh, thank God for that. You know what I mean? There's like a big sigh of relief, and it's like, oh, that's lovely. And you were saying that about like even with the 30 kilogram for 3 sets of 3, it feels nice.
It felt better. It felt better. I wasn't, because when I started, I wasn't in the, we always talk about this, won't we? I wasn't in the mood to train today because I've done extra work. So I was at the gym at 5:45 this morning. I did a PT session. Then I did a 45-minute spinning class. Then I had 3 more hours of personal training. And I got to the, midday-ish and haven't eaten anything. I was a bit tired and I thought, I don't know what this is going to feel like today, but I'm just going to start. You know what I mean? One of those, and I just laid out, I laid out all my bells, just literally from really light and just built up. And then I did my 3 sets of 3 on each side with the 30 kilos, and it felt much better than last week. So sometimes we always say it, don't we? If you don't feel like training, just get started. Just start doing something. Just get moving. Just start warming up. Because sometimes it's those sessions. It's like my deadlift session yesterday, I think it was, which again, I had a 45-minute gap between clients, but the volume was really low now. My yesterday, all I had to do was 3 sets of 2 deadlifts, and then one.
At what weight?
152.5. Which is kind of and when I started training with Paul, my lifetime PR was like 130. Yeah,
exactly.
So yeah,
you're saying like it is low volume, but it's easy. It's easy volume at that at a weight that is like.
And now it takes me less time. It takes me less time to warm up because all I do now is I put a 20 kilo plate each side of the bar, so 60 kilos, and I do 5. Then I put another 20 kilo, which takes it to 100, and do 5. Then another 20 kilo each side, which takes it to 140. And I think I did 3. And then it just went up to 152.5. Did my 3 sets of 2. And then he had me on the 13-inch. So you put like some bumpers underneath the bar to raise the bar off the floor a bit. And he said 155, just 1 set of kind of as many as you can, really. And I got 8. And the most I've ever lifted, my tested 1 rep max off the floor for 1 rep is 155. So doing like 3 sets of 2 with 152.5 and then a set of 8 off of the blocks, my 1 rep max is definitely higher. I think I need to, for my SFL, I'm going to need to deadlift probably 160 or 162.5, maybe, probably 160. So I'm kind of there, I think. But this is what he's doing with me now. It feels like he's brought the volume right down to 3 sets of 2, and the weights are ramping up, So it's, but I'm dealing with it, and I kind of, my nervous system's already obviously ready for it, you know. And I think I've got about another 6 weeks till I need to hit the
Yeah,
number.
you have, because Jed's got to do the bench press. And I know
Oh, so
exactly
it'll be
what
the same, yeah. And I think it's
Yeah.
the week after the SFG2. So I think it's about 6 weeks. So I'm just going to keep following the program. This is a funny one. I was chatting to a member yesterday. I don't think he listens. His name's Paul. He's a lovely guy who's a member of the gym. And I've known him for probably 30 years. We were in the same, he was a little bit older than me, but we were in the same school and everything. But he's been a member of the gym since we opened, sort of 16, 17 years ago. And he's doing the tactical strength challenge, which is 3 weeks this Saturday. And I've got him doing the kind of deadlifts the way Paul does them, you know, like I've brought him now down to 8 sets. I'm gradually bringing the volume down, but he's doing like 8 sets of 3 or 8 sets of 4, you know. And he said to me yesterday, we weren't training, we're training tonight. And he said, I really feel I need to test where I'm at, because I don't know how I'm going to lift this, you know, this heavier weight he wants to lift at the tactical strength challenge, because I'm not testing it. I don't know, you know, I feel like I need to. And I'm like, don't test it. Don't test it. I said, it's the same as me, you know. And I use Paul's phrase, which I don't know if he uses it a lot, but he said it to me before. I've heard him say it, which is, you know, every session you spend testing your strength is a session you waste when you could be building your strength. You know what I mean?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He said that at the weekend as well. Yeah.
Yeah. So I said that to him yesterday, and then but he doesn't trust me. He doesn't believe, you know.
Because it's interesting though, because that can go one of two ways, right? And neither of them help.
Yeah.
So you could get it, and that's great, but you've maxed out your central nervous system.
Yeah.
On that session, and you might be all right the next day or whatever, or the next session you do, but you're going to be fatigued, because it takes a little while, or it takes a good while for your central nervous system to get over that, right? Or you go for it and completely miss it, and then you've got no chance, because
you're confident, your mental confidence is gone, your belief is gone. Yeah.
So either way, there's no point in doing it.
Yeah.
That if you're gonna test, you test on the day.
Yeah.
It was interesting because Paul said something about powerlifting competitions as well. I mean, I'm not a powerlifter. I've never been in a competition or anything like that, but it makes perfect sense. And he said, you know, if you're in a powerlifting competition, you don't watch the other person, you don't watch the other people compete. Because if you're after them, you're watching them compete, you're watching what they're doing, you're mentally going over your deadlift in your head or whatever it is, deadlift, squat, bench, whatever. You're going over it in your head every time they do it, and that fatigues your central nervous system. So you might as well just not think about it, not do it, and then walk up and just pick the bar up off the ground, right? So and that sounds that would have sounded to me years ago like, nah, it doesn't make that much difference, but it all depends on how heavy it is, right? And if you're maxing out, it makes a huge difference. You need as much mental strength as physical strength. Like, you just need it. So it's similar to, you know, doing a shitload of reps before you go and test your max.
Yeah.
It's doing that with your brain. So yeah. It made sense.
And I know when I got my 155 deadlift last time, I had not lifted anything heavier in training than about 115 or 120, I don't think. Do you know what I mean? But I've just been doing that volume and just doing the 10 sets of 3, the 10 sets of 4, the 10 sets of, you know. And then when it came to when I did test it, it was like I just kind of gradually I think I just put maybe 120 on and did it once, 130 did it once, 140 did it once. So that's gone up okay. 150 did it once, 155. Whoa, bloody hell, you know what I mean? But I don't need. So I've got that, I suppose, that belief that you don't need to be training and testing right up close to your 1 rep max to. Again, it's the saying, the rising tide raises all ships. If you're getting strong with 80% or 90% of your 1 rep max, then your 1 rep max is going up. So you don't necessarily.
Yeah. Well, I said to because I was doing cycling through like that with the reps up to sets of 10. I was only doing it for this is for the bench with Jed. but I was only doing 5 sets because he was getting tired. But he does crack. He does loads.
Mm.
He's got a
And,
manual job.
he's a window cleaner, isn't he? So
So he's got a
up and
manual
down
job.
ladders. Yeah.
And he does Krav Maga like 20 times a week or something. He's just like, honestly, he never stops. He decided to start cycling at some point as well. So so I had him doing 5 sets, but in exactly the same way, you know. And this is one of the things I should have asked Paul at the weekend, but I didn't. But then I know the answer. It's like, well, yeah, if you're doing 10 sets and it's killing you, you either drop the weight or you drop the number of sets, right? That's just the way it is. So we were doing, you know, cycling up the reps in 5 sets. But then now that he had, I reverse engineered, work backwards from the weight he needs to do for his bench, stripped out everything else, because he was doing 5 days a week as well, because he was doing some pressing and stuff. So I stripped that out, and it's like, right, you're basically doing bench and squat, or no, bench and deadlift, and that's it. Because on the other days, so he does 3 days a week on that, and on the other days he's doing snatch. He does also. He goes, oh, like, oh, I just tested all the level 2 stuff on Tuesday. Okay, so I know he does that, right? So I've got to manage that, like his fatigue, because he does all this other stuff. So I'm like, right, bench and deadlift. That's it. That's all I'm giving you to do. Anything else you do is on you. That's what I'm giving you to do. But then now what I've done is cycle up in the same way Paul, like I learned off Paul, is cycle up the weight. So you do more reps with a lighter weight. So say it's Monday, Wednesday, Friday, you do 5, heavier weight 4, and then lighter weight 3 on the Friday. And then you just move the weights up 1, and then move them up 1 again, and move them up 1 again. So he's actually, you do the harder session is the more reps, because the heavier session is fewer reps, so it's less volume.
I would always rather, this is the thing with deadlifts. I mean, I train Alex Nicole Bennett, you know, who's obviously Alex is doing the weekend now. Actually, I think she's.
Oh yeah, that'd be great.
Yeah, she signed up for the weekend, so she's
strong.
Yeah, she's going to be. You'll meet you and obviously see her at the weekend again. But we say, you know, especially deadlifts. If you're doing 5 sets or 10 sets of deadlift and it's 5 reps, I hate doing that. I'd much rather do heavier for like sets of 2 or 3. You know what I mean? So, but that's good because you do it's all psychological, isn't it? Because you do the sets with the higher reps, and then it almost feels like a break or a relief when you do the sets with the lower reps, even though you're lifting heavier weights. So
exactly. And the fact is, he's only got to do 1 rep.
Yeah.
The heavy
what's
weight.
What's he got a bench press, Jed?
I don't know.
Around 100, isn't it? I think
it's somewhere like 102.5 or something like that.
Yeah. So I remember it's really close.
He's close to it. He's close to it, but I have to just keep saying, don't worry about it, because you'll get it on the day or you won't. All of this stuff that we're doing will get you closer to it. So there's no need to worry about it, because if you worry about it, you're still either going to do it or not. So all you need to do is follow the program. We'll get there in the time that we've done, and it should go up. And if he gets it, he goes elite as well, which will be great.
Yeah. No, he's good. Yeah. No, it was so good. I mean, like you say, really, really interesting. The thing with me, the issue that I've had a lot is, and Paul had noticed it before, because he said to me, my second rep or third rep is always better than the first one. Do you know what I mean? And also, as the session goes on, my sets tend to get better, you know? Yeah. Because I'm quite a sort of a slow starter, if you like. I find it hard to engage fully and to fire everything up from the start. So I'm not particularly explosive. I'm more slow twitch, more designed for built for endurance a little bit more, you know, because I'm fairly slight and fairly slim in that as well, you know, in my body shape. So it's just finding ways that I can, because if you're going for like a 1 rep max deadlift, you need to kind of switch everything on for that 1 rep max, for that 1 rep, you know. So it was just, he gave me that little technique to hitch my hips up and then drop. And I've kind of been doing that this week, and it does help, because I do see, you know, strong men do that, you know, you kind of, you almost stretch the hamstring, then you drop, then you come back up. So you're creating that stretch reflex almost. So you almost, he said it was because obviously when you deadlift, you don't get the benefit of an eccentric to switch everything on before you go concentric. So a squat, you obviously unrack, you feel the weight at the top, and then, you know, I'm going to go down with it, I'm going to come up with it. A bench press, you unrack it, you've got straight arms, you feel the weight, you come down, then you go back up. But with a deadlift,
Yeah.
you're starting from the floor. So it was almost in a way.
Even it's funny because even on a kettlebell press, it's the same, or like a press, it's the same
Yeah.
because you got the bar on you, so you get the stretch before you
Yeah.
press.
Yeah.
That without actually doing like a down and drive, but it's the stretch is already in the muscle, isn't it? Because
Yes,
it's there.
Yeah, you're kind of
But with a deadlift,
preloading.
it's not.
Yeah, preloading. But yeah, with the deadlift, you're not. So it was almost he's trying to get me to almost create a bit of a false negative, false eccentric for the nervous system, you know, so that
Yeah.
I go up, down, and then boom, and then up, you know, and it's felt pretty good actually. I mean, I've only done it twice, but
what was funny on the day though was you were going up, down, and then waiting, and he was like, "Right, stop."
Yeah, no, because I was overthinking it. It's like, I know we've got people obviously who listen who play golf, you know, it's if someone's trying to tweak your golf swing and you start just thinking about everything too much, and then you start thinking about, well, how am I meant to be breathing, and where do I hold my breath, and when do I do this, and what's meant to be tight and what's meant to be loose, and all the rest of it, you know.
Shall I tell you what? It's not even just that. So with cubes, there's algorithms, right, to do all of the moves, and there's loads of them. And if someone says to me, "What's the algorithm for that one?" I don't know because it's just in my head. And then if I try to do it, I'll go right. I'll go, it's this, digga, digga, digga. And then it'll be like, right, so slowly it's this. And I'm like, oh, I've forgotten. Because it's just, it comes naturally. So that's the thing. If you overthink, obviously you need to a little bit, which is what Paul also said at the weekend. And what's been my experience is if you change your technique, you're going to get worse.
Yeah.
You're not going to be as strong in that. However, you just persevere and then it will get stronger. It's just because it's new. Yeah. And the brain fears new stuff anyway. It wants everything to be the same, doesn't it? So
that's another thing that he was saying a lot when it changes strange.
Yeah. The brain, that's a neurology thing anyway. The brain just doesn't like change because change is perceived to be danger in the brain. And you've got to convince it that it's not dangerous. So, which is why you start out light, convince your central nervous system that you're okay with this. And then as you progress through heavier, through the comfort zone training or within comfort training, then your brain's just like, you know, what's comfortable is perceived differently. But what was interesting was he said about squats is you're going to have to change your perception of comfort because squats are never comfortable.
He did. He said squats and deadlifts, didn't he? He said squats and deadlifts are never comfortable. But,
yeah, and he's right.
Because they're whole body systemic exercises, aren't they? You know, so
because I've thought that doing pistol squats, I'm like every and I know he's not, but every now and then I get a session. I'm like, is he full of shit here? Because this is really hard. But it's because pistol squats are hard, right? It's a big old. I mean, that was another interesting thing because your military press with a barbell. Your one rep or your single arm press will be more than half of your barbell press.
Yes, yeah.
But on your squat, but then you've got both legs on the floor and all that sort of stuff, right? On that press and on the single arm press. Yeah. But on your squat, your pistol squat is, I mean, like if you can do them, your pistol squat is less than half of your back squat because you're on one leg. And the stress on the central nervous system from that is huge.
Yeah, the balance, the body, no, it was really, because I think that's the thing, isn't it? Because as well, he said that this is the thing, like you say, language. If you say to somebody, training should be cut, you know, you're training in your comfort zone. It's comfort zone expansion. It's comfortable. Some people think that means, you know, sitting on the sofa with a cup of tea watching TV, it's going to be that comfortable. It's not. It's shades of comfort, isn't it, or shades of grey? And what he said, really, what he would define as in the comfort zone is, could you have done another rep? You know, could you have done another 2? Could you have done another 3 if you really had to? It's not saying it's going to be easier. It's going to be comfortable doing it, but could you have done more? You know, and that's and that's why the thing is, he doesn't ask us when we do stuff for RPE or what was the RPE on this? How hard do you feel? He just watches the video and he can see, oh yeah, he could have done more than that, or could have done another one there. Because the thing is, it's always the way as well. I know this is probably the same for you, I'm sure. When I do something like a deadlift or a kettlebell press or whatever, pull-ups, it feels like it's slow. It feels like it's a grind. It feels like it looks hard. But then you watch the video and you're like, actually, that moved a lot quicker than it felt, or that looked a lot smoother than it felt, because it feels hard to you. But then you watch the video and you think, actually, that looked fairly comfortable. It's really weird, isn't it?
We honestly, we're gonna do another hour now.
No. I'll go back to work in a bit.
But definitely, this is because I've learned this by getting people to, like, doing coaching in the same way, getting people to send the last set and all that, and they'll say, "God, that was really hard," and you look at it and you go, "Yeah, but it wasn't." That's your perception, but if you look at the video, it's not. But if I could send, like, you or anybody a video of what's going on in my head, not the movement of what's going on in my head, it would look way hard. It would be like, Jesus Christ, you want to stop doing that? You're going to die. That's what your brain thinks, right? But you're not, because it's actually relatively easy. And then when you watch, like you say, you watch the video and you're like, that's not how it looked to me in here.
Yeah, so, it's not how it felt. Yeah, that doesn't.
But that's where the benefit of an experienced coach will look at it and go, no, this is why you're not getting to where you want to be, because you're stopping well within comfort. Before you even reach anywhere near the edge of your comfort, you're stopping, or you're cycling back, and you're saving yourself, because that's what the brain does. Someone else's brain will see it differently, especially with the benefit of experience and what have you. And
I've started videoing a lot of the clients, my clients, as I train them, and showing them some, just in the middle of the session, just recording a set and showing them it and saying, look at this. This was really good. Look, this looks, and they usually look at it and they say, oh God, that actually looks really good. Actually, that looks, I've been doing loads of press ups with people this week and using that, patent pending slant board, that I've got.
Yeah.
And
the JSP slant board.
Patent pending. And but people, they're really getting nice and deep and they're pressing up and it looks lovely. They watch themselves and a lot of the time they're quite surprised. They're quite like, oh yeah, that looked good actually. That looked really quite good. It doesn't look as good as, it looks much better than it feels, so they look at it and they actually, that is really good. So yeah, no, it's fascinating. And I suppose, we will wrap up in a minute, because I say I'm back at work and stuff, but no, it's interesting. And that I think is the thing, that we were there all weekend. So Saturday was a 9 to 7 day. Sunday was a 9 to 6 day, wasn't it? Well, you had to leave a little bit early.
I booked it off at 4:30, so I don't know.
You had to get a Oh, it made me laugh when I was at the airport about 8:30, and you said, "Is it finished yet?"
Yeah. Are you done yet?
Yeah. So it finished about 6, 6:15, something like that. So they're 2 long days. It's a 10-hour day and then a 9-hour day. But what I found great was the caliber of the instructors and the trainers there. We were all there to learn, and that's having that forever, that eternal student mindset of, you want to learn, you want to we spend a lot of money on these weekends. Last weekend, flying to Belfast, wasn't a cheap weekend.
Staying in the most expensive Ibis hotel I've ever stayed.
Everywhere, we've said this, and everywhere in Belfast is expensive. I was just talking to Lauren about that earlier as well. There's nowhere you can stay cheap. But so if you think about it, the cost of the course, the flights, the hotel, and it was £1,000 weekend probably. Including food and bits and pieces. But we do it because we love it and because we want to learn more. And then this weekend coming, again, 2 days with Dan and Tim, hotel for the weekend and all the rest of it, and meals and stuff, But this is why it's so important as coaches, as trainers, as people running this podcast, that we're constantly sort of putting ourselves out there to learn, And I think it's, when I was stood there with Paul when he was doing my back squat, and I've been a coach for 25 years, and you're stood there with 30 people watching you, and he's prodding you and telling you to do different things and trying this and trying that. It's putting yourself right out there to be, picked apart and to be tweaked and to be improved, but it's so important, I think.
I'll tell you what. Firstly, I'm really glad that both these weekends are back to back. It's like, oh, that's just like, oh, brilliant, yeah. But there was the guy there. I can't remember his name. The guy who was only there on the second day from Manchester, and he could do like a 220 kilo back squat.
Oh, yes. Yeah. 270, I think.
Was that his deadlift or back squat? Anyway, it was.
Oh, sorry. Deadlift was 270.
It was funny because he mentioned it all, didn't he? And everyone went, "Is that pounds?" He was like, "No, kilos."
Yeah.
But
Yeah,
even him, he was breathing into his chest rather than into his belly, wasn't he, to do the squats? So Paul was like, because Paul was prodding his ribs, wasn't he? Going, breathe there, and he was like, "I am." He was like, "You're not. You're breathing up here." He goes, "Breathe." He goes, "That's it." And he goes, "Right. Imagine how many kilos that's just put onto your back squat now." So that was really interesting because he's obviously clearly experienced and ludicrously strong.
Yeah.
And there was something else I was going to say, but I can't remember. But yeah. So that. Oh no, and you just saying you've been coaching for years and stuff like that. But there's always it's like driving, isn't it? You pick up bad habits. You look at the highway code and you go, nah, that's not how you do it. I've not got any kids. You'll probably experience this, won't you, in the future? But like, no, I know the highway code. You don't do it like that. It's like Monopoly. Everyone's got every family have got different rules for Monopoly and things like that, haven't they? It's like, yeah, they're the rules, but this is how we play. So that happens with strength training as well, doesn't it? And everyone is different in it, but a lot like the principles of it are the same for everyone. So yeah.
Well, I think that those principles of, the big principles of comfort zone expansion, of just being the eternal student, of always wanting to learn and develop, of how you get strong. So I'll just quickly, I know we're wrapping up now, but there was, what was the slide that I took?
You've got quotes.
I know I've made loads. I've also made loads of notes, and I said to Steph, I'm going to be giving you loads of like canvas to do. Let me just find it. But it was something about how you. I think it might have been the start of day 2. Let me just find it. I've got hundreds of photos on here. I've got hundreds of photos of all the programs, and then we got given them in the thing, didn't we? Yeah.
While James is searching, I'll just tell you this. Basically, for the press, it's 20 years if you do it 3 times a week, 12 years if you do it twice. 12 years.
The other way around.
20 years if you do it twice a week.
Yeah.
And it's literally
every session planned out for you. It's
literally every session that you'd need to do for 12 years, let's say, and you'll get stronger. That's worth like the money we paid, isn't it? Because that's 20 years of training or 12 years of training.
Well, I said, didn't I? What am I now? 45. At 65, I can be.
If I do
56 or something.
If I do the twice a week, by the time I'm, plus a few years, when I'm 70, I'll be pressing a 70 kilo bell. So that'll be nice.
Do me. That'll be 70 reps with 70 kilos at 70 years of age at 70 kilos body weight.
Yeah.
Anyway, anyway, this is gonna wrap it up because otherwise we could talk all day. So one of the slides that he put up was optimal progress, and this is this is actually general progress that I think applies to everything in life. So we did the last week when we were talking, I used that quote as a kind of a springboard for the conversation, which was complication is the enemy of implementation. We use that, and that can be applied to anything in life. And this one, optimal progress, doesn't come from, number 1, pain and struggle, number 2, variety and novelty, and number 3, becoming average at a million things. So he was talking about the what's the word? I used it with somebody the other day, and I'm going to find it because otherwise it's going to bother me. Just bear with me 1 second.
We're about to watch James have a breakdown.
No, this is live. This is live. Who was it I was messaging? Graham. There you go.
It's like being on Skype.
No, sorry, listen to me. Singularity of purpose.
Yes.
He was talking about, having that, I suppose, focus, keeping the goal, all those things that we speak about all the time, you know, not becoming average at a million different things, having that singularity of focus, setting your kind of target on something, and then having the courage, the persistence, the resilience, and the, I suppose, the strength to follow it through, you know, and not to be distracted by the latest program or the latest fad or shiny object syndrome, you know, just to actually have that singularity of purpose. And that's what it would take to press twice a week or 3 times a week for the next 20 or 12 years following a program, and not like we said earlier, not constantly feel the need every month. Oh, I'm going to test it. I've got to test what my 1RM is. I've got to test it because, as we said, we'll finish with this one. You know, the rising tide raises all ships. You know, you just stick with it, and you're going to get better. But anyway, I think that's a wrap, pretty much.
There you go. Yeah.
Bosh. Right, guys. So thank you so much for listening, for watching, for, you know, we're picking up new people all the time on this podcast now. It's fantastic. So it's great. And it's great. We're getting these new Apple reviews coming, which is great as well. So go to Apple Podcasts, leave us a review. And in anywhere from 7 to 21 days, we'll be able to read it. We haven't quite worked out how long it takes, but they do take a while to come through. But please do like, share, subscribe, leave a review if you're leaving or watching on a platform that allows you to do so. But specifically, Apple Podcasts will be brilliant. And also subscribe on YouTube if you don't already. That will really help out as well. We will be back next week for episode 193 with David Keown, aka Indiana Stones. We'll be back with him, and I'm sure we'll probably have a little chat about the weekend that we've got ahead with Dan and Tim this weekend, which is fantastic. But we do really appreciate you guys listening every week. I mean, that was a little bit technical in parts today, but I'm sure some of you got a lot out of it. And those of you who didn't may have stopped listening and may not even be listening now, so it's fine. But next week's going to be back with David Keown, Indiana Stones. Until then, bye-bye.
You've been listening to Health Odyssey with Peter Lant, Paul Bassett, and James St. Pierre. To get your regular fix of hype-free health, you can subscribe and leave a review wherever you get your favorite podcasts. You can find out more on today's and other topics at healthodyssey.com, or find us on Facebook or Instagram by searching for Health Odyssey.